Hello, I'm Mike Lenox. I'm a professor here at the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia, and I'm here to talk about my new book with Becky Duff called The Decarbonization Imperative, Transforming the Global Economy by 2050. In this book, we're looking at climate change, and in particular, what needs to happen if we're going to try to address climate change and meet the goals that climate scientists have set for us to try to limit global warming to hopefully 1.5 degrees Celsius, or at the very least 2 degrees Celsius. And it's a tall order. It basically requires reduction of emissions to zero, what we call net zero emissions of greenhouse gases in 5 major sectors: transportation, energy, buildings, agriculture, and industrials, things like steel and cement. And what we find is that in each one of these sectors, there's opportunities, there's new technologies coming about. And so what we're trying to do in the book is assess what's the likelihood of these transformations to occur, and then what are the various levers, both policies and actions by different actors, that can be taken to try to advance decarbonization in each of these sectors. And not surprisingly, there's a lot of challenges in each of these. The one I'm probably most optimistic on is transportation. We're seeing a fundamental shift in automobiles from the traditional internal combustion engine to electrification, mainly battery-powered electric vehicles. So if we look at the underlying economics of what we would call transformation or disruption, we're seeing that many of the hallmarks of a transition from one technology to another are starting to take place. We're seeing a massive decrease in the cost of electric vehicles, especially the battery technology. We're starting to see adoption, of course, by users grow exponentially. We're seeing entry by both new companies, relatively new companies like Tesla, and then almost every established auto company now is offering electric vehicles. So there's a lot of promise there, but there's also a lot of additional need if we're going to really see that transformation. So in the book, we talk about some of the different policy levers one might pull, building out charging stations, incentivizing adoption, maybe through a subsidy and the like, to try to advance that. And then we go on to other sectors, electric generation. Again, fascinating story about the reduction of cost in renewable energy. We've seen a miraculous decrease in the price of solar and wind to a point that they are actually, in many applications, on par with and competitive with alternatives such as natural gas generation of electricity. However, there's still, again, yet a number of challenges. People talk a lot about intermittency. The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. And so as a result, we need a whole mix of things to evolve together, including probably the use of batteries for storage or other ways of storing electricity. People have talked about the advancing of a smart grid to be able to handle bidirectional flows of energy from production in your house if you have a solar panel on your home, from larger scale renewable production. And yet again, there's a whole host of different policies and the like that can help advance that. And we continue down the list. There are areas like agriculture. People aren't aware of, but about a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions globally are in the agriculture sector, mainly driven from methane production in livestock and from nitric oxide in the use of fertilizers throughout the world. That's going to take a really concerted effort, innovation, changes in behavior to really try to get us to decarbonize that sector. Industrials, things like steel and cement, which are really the backbone of our global economy, all create significant emissions, and we'll need solutions, either technologies or changes in behavior, to be able to address that. So if you look out in the world today and you see any number of environmental issues, you see increase in extreme weather throughout the world, a harbinger for climate change to come, we've got a serious problem that we need to address. But hopefully through this book, we can start to make it tractable. And what you see for a lot of people, they just simply become overwhelmed when the topic comes to climate change. And so part of our goal is to just lay out what are the steps that are going to be needed, what types of interventions might be needed to try to advance these different technologies and cause disruptions in different industries to more sustainable technologies. And to think of it really from a systemic perspective, thinking of all the different players and stakeholders who play a role in the broader economy and the broader market transition, and what role you could even play as an individual in helping advance us to a decarbonized future.